Hi everyone, this is Planet Mitch from planet5D.com. And yes, it's been a while since I've recorded an episode of the daily Planet 5D, but this is the next one, whatever the number was from wherever I left off last time. Today, I'm out in the wilds. I don't know if you can tell that, but I am in Yosemite National Park here in the United States. We're on a family trip, and we have been having a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I needed some extra lenses to come with me. So I brought the Canon 14mm f2.8L. You know, all these numbers get kind of confusing, so you have to take a glance every now and then. And I also brought the Canon 100 to 400 f4 to f5.6, depending upon where you are in the zoom range. And both of those I got from, let's get it upside down, LensProToGo. You probably can't see that from there, but we'll show you a couple of close-ups in a minute. Thank the folks at LensProToGo. We did have a nice rental from them this time, and I also forgot to bring the Pelican case. I'm looking around because I thought I had it with me, but it's back in the car. When you rent lenses from LensProToGo, like this one and that one, they come in a Pelican case, and so you are very sure that they're safe and sound when they arrive to you. And when they come to you, they come with a return label. And yes, I'm standing sort of by a roadside, so you may hear some car sounds. I apologize about that. But you also probably hear the water rushing by, and I'll show you that scene in just a second. But back to LensProToGo, you do happen to get the return label, so you just pack everything back up in the box and take it to the UPS store or to anybody that will ship via UPS and send that baby home. So it's really simple to do. In this episode, I'm going to focus just on the 14mm, and we'll cover this one in the next episode. So I'm going to put this one down. I have to break in before I go into any kind of details with the 14mm and let you know that I really love LensProToGo, and you've probably already figured that out. But when I got home, I had an email from Mike at LensProToGo who told me there was an issue with the lens. So I called him up and we talked a little bit. And it turns out that they normally do some testing of the lenses to make sure you didn't just slam it up against a rock, you know, when you get back. And it turns out that there were some focus issues with the 14mm that I had, and I sent him the very first set of images, and then I sent him some test images because I sat in Yosemite and I did a test with the lens, and I started at 2.8. And then I went to 4, and then I went to 6, and then I went to f8 and f10 and on up to f22. And I could see that the lens was very sharp at f22, sharpish. And anyway, to make a long story short, if you look at the images right above, you can see this image, which is the image that they took with the lens of the test chart after I sent it back. And then you look at this image, and you'll see the test image with another 14mm, and you'll see that it's a lot sharper. And so LensProToGo is going to send me another copy of the 14mm in a couple of weeks when I'm going out to do some other testing, and I'll put up another report. But I wanted to finish this one and go ahead and upload it because it has some general features about the 14mm that still apply. On with the rest of the review, but remember that there are some focus issues with the one that I used, and although I got some very good images, which I'll include with the review, it could have been better. So I would have probably been a little bit more excited, and we'll see when we get the next one. The 14mm is a very unique lens because it's very wide. And I wanted to show you next to the 24 to 105, which I own. See, it says 24 right there, 24? The 24 to 105 and the 14 are very similar in size. Just about the only difference is the focus ring at the top is a little taller. I also have the cap on this one. The 14 feels just a little bit lighter than the 24 to 105. I'm using the 24-105 as a standard because A, that's the one I have, and I know a lot of people out there have the 24-105, so I wanted to compare the two. Removing the lens cap, which is very different than most of the lens caps in the Canon line because it actually has some thickness to it. And I'll show you this up close, but the lens is actually curved, very curved. So there is no ring in here where you can apply filters because they just flat out get it, flat lens, flat filter, get it, they won't fit on here. So you would have to use a matte box if you're going to do any filming with this and you wanted to use a neutral density filter or something like that. As usual, AF, manual focus on autofocus. There is no stabilization on this lens. Off the top of my head, I do not know the minimum focal length, or the focus length, but I do know that you can get very close. I have taken some portraits of my daughters while we were on the trip, and I've gotten probably about this close to their faces, and yes, it's going to look pretty distorted. But you can get pretty darn close with this lens, and you can look up the actual minimum focus length. This is an ultra wide angle 14mm lens, and you will get some distortion depending upon where you are pointing the lens. One of the things that I first did, we went to Sequoia National Park, was one of the first places we went, and I was able to point the lens up and amongst the trees and get some really awesome shots looking straight up. If you're shooting at f2.8, which is the widest aperture you can get, there is along the edges of the image a lot, and I mean even about this much, there is a lot of distortion or out of focus areas, which of course at f2.8 you expect to be out of focus. But if you can stop down to about f10, then everything kind of comes into focus on the edges. It's not perfect, but if you could go all the way down to f22, you get some very nice images that are sharp throughout the whole range of this lens. You've got to just be aware of that when you're shooting. It's in the center, it's a very crisp lens. It's probably not as sharp as some of the other lenses I've used right in the center, but if you really want the ultra wide angle. The other thing that I noticed, by the way, like when we were in Death Valley the first day, which was, oh man, it was very hot. It was 129, 130, depending upon which thermometer you looked at, which I think I looked up was 53 Celsius. So that's pretty hot. So we didn't have a whole lot of time that we spent outside, let me tell you. But in these vast vistas, your eye kind of focuses, you know, on the thing that you're looking at, and you kind of ignore the other stuff. But when you're shooting, for example, at Death Valley, where the mountains are across the valley, and you come back and you look at the images later, well, you know, the 14mm covers just a little bit beyond your feet, all the way up here in the sky, and so the things that are in a distance are really kind of small, and it makes a really nice vista. And maybe you can crop the center, which is what I've done on several of mine. Just throw out the sky and the ground right below your feet, because that's not adding anything to the image, but you can get sort of an ultra wide angle like of mountains. So that's kind of cool to be able to do that without shooting a panorama itself. But you have to be aware when you're thinking about using this lens exactly what you're going to get, which is true with any lens, of course, Mitch, that's no brainer. But it is very, my kids were using this and they're like, Dad, that's crazy wide angle. And of course, like if you're doing the, like I was talking about with shooting a portrait or something, the people's legs look really long and, you know, on the bottom part of the screen. And so you have to be just really aware of what's going on. And now I see people behind me going down the path to the river. So that's what's going on up there. Anyway, so that's the 14mm f2.8L from Canon, and again, thanks to LensProToGo. If you ever need a lens here in the United States, or a body, or extra gear, give them a call. I had Meg recommend the two lenses that I've got based on the stock images I had, and therefore you can always get great advice on what lenses to pick for whatever kind of trip you're going to take. That's LensProToGo.com. And no, they didn't sponsor this. I paid for this myself. Right now we're still doing the Canon 6D giveaway thanks to B&H Photos. So go over to the planet5D forums at forums.planet5d.com, or go to planet5d.com/giveaway, and that will take you right to the information on how to enter that. You have till July 31st of 2013 to enter, and post as many times as you can on the forums and be entered to win. This is Planet Mitch from Planet5D signing out. Motorcycles. It's a motorcycle gang going by. Hi! I'm using this because a bus goes by. Let's cut that out. Is 2.8 is the wide openest. That's a new word. The wide openest part. Hi, kids. Some people are trying to come down to the river. So